Hey everyone, it's Gary here from Echidna Sewing, and today I'm joined by one of our amazing support staff, Rachel. Hi Rachel, how are you going?
Hi everyone, hey Gary, I'm good.
And we're about to have a look at a brand new product for Echidna and Hemingworth, and that's our new water soluble thread. So Rachel, this is a product that you have pushed me for a long time. Hemingworth have finally come to the party with it. Why do you love it so much?
I love it because it's really, really useful when you need to baste things or stitch things together temporarily. So, you know, my past life, I'm a quilter. Actually, it's still
you're still quilting a bit, of course.
But I use this a lot, and there's lots of things I've used it for. I've used it for Trapunto, I've used it for basting quilts. And you asked me to make some samples. So I've jumped in and I've made some for you. I was going to do an adult size top and do some gathering, but I decided to do a doll's size, and that, I'm going to tell you, was a bad move. It's harder to make a doll's top than it is to make an adult's top.
I could imagine that, yeah.
Anyway,
I haven't made many doll's tops, to be honest, so I'll be guided by your judgment there.
That's small. But I did use the thread to gather most of it.
Okay.
The sleeves and here. What I love about water-soluble thread with gathering is that in the old days, we'd run 2 lines of gathering stitches, you know, like I have on here. But we would have to pull the thread out afterwards.
Yeah.
With the water-soluble, we don't have to. You can just leave it in there, wash the garment, it'll go away. So I did 2 lines of gathering on this, and you can see it was strong enough for me to pull the skirt together, for me to put it onto the bodice.
Well, that's important, isn't it? Because you do have to pull the gather.
Yes, you do.
And so but can I ask you then, when you use the thread, did you have to do anything to the machine tensions or anything? Or you just...
All I did is I used the regular sewing thread in the bobbin, but I increased my stitch length to 5, which I would normally do if I was using a regular thread. So just those same principles, and it worked really well. I'm really happy. So I will actually finish the sample and get the skirt attached to the bodice, and then we'll have it hanging in the office probably.
Fantastic, yeah. Well,
so it should be cute.
So that's good then. It's a water-soluble thread that kind of looks like a normal thread.
Yes, it does.
And performs on your sewing machine like a normal thread.
I found it as strong when I was gathering it, like a normal thread. I could give it that tension and pull it hard to get the gather.
So I notice it's in the Hemingworth spool. Now,
it is.
I'm thinking if it's in a spool cap, let's just grab one of these. So if you've ever used the Hemingworth threads, you know they come with the clear plastic caps. So, we'll just have a look. This one might be easier to see. So here's a typical spool of Hemingworth. And of course it has the little sort of hole in the top of the cap, and the cap sits on there, and then there's the little silicone stopper that sits in there. So my thoughts are then, if you've got a water-soluble thread, the less you manhandle it, the better, I imagine.
Absolutely. You should never go to the bathroom and touch the spool of thread if you don't dry your hands properly.
Yeah, because it'd be like wash-away stabiliser. It would become quite tacky in your hands, so you don't want to get it wet. So that spool is going to be fantastic. And for those of you, again, if you've never used a Hemingworth spool and you're thinking, hey, I need some water-soluble thread, I know camera guy can see on the machine here, but the spool, the plastic cap stays on the spool while you're using it, and it's only the little plastic stopper or the silicone stopper that comes out, and the thread comes up through the top of the actual cap. So that means that it just is a far better thread system than a traditional thread.
Easier to care for a water-soluble
Absolutely.
thread.
It makes perfect sense for a water-soluble thread. So the other thing that you have let me know that the value of this, because this is 1,000 metres? I think it is, isn't it?
This is why
900 metres.
Reluctant to use it in a lot, because, you know, it was you buy a very small reel, and it was expensive. This time I wound bobbins because I use it on the top and bobbin. Depends on the project that you'd work on. Depends on if you'd use it in the bobbin. But I did for the quilt basting and the Trapunto, and for the wash away that we'll talk about in a minute. But it's really good value for money. Very good.
A little tip, I think. If you wind a bobbin with this thread, mark the bobbin.
Mark your bobbin.
You don't want to mix that up with your white thread and then go and make a garment with water-soluble thread, because it would be quite funny, actually.
You'll be disappointed after doing the washing.
Don't make your swimming suit with water-soluble thread. That would be a little bit of a disaster.
That's a really good tip.
Yes, I think so. So even if you just get a little texture out and mark the bobbin with WS water soluble. Yeah, exactly. So what else can we do with water soluble thread?
So the next thing I did was, you know how you end up with remnants of wash away. You've been doing some machine embroidery and you have bits left over and you think, I really want to use those. I used to just throw it in a jar, but you can see with this one, it's stitched together. So we sewed together the water soluble with water soluble thread on top and underneath.
Well, that's a great tip, because I have seen myself with people who do embroidery have taken all their remnants and just hooped them together like this without joining them, thinking it would be stable enough to make lace or do whatever you're going to do with it. And it's not.
It sags, doesn't it?
It sags. So by stitching this together with water soluble thread, you have just found an amazing way to save all those remnants. And then once you rehoop it, I notice on this, once you rehoop it, it's quite firm. That's not going to give you any loss of integrity. So, wow, that's a great tip, folks. So don't throw all your scraps of wash away. You can sew them together with water-soluble thread. So that's awesome. Now, what else can we do?
Actually, just before we finish on that, when you're done, you can sew together the remnants of the remnants.
You could, yeah.
So just keep saving it rather than, you know, storing or wetting it or whatever you did to get rid of it. Just keep saving it, stitching it together. And
that's a massive cost saving when you think about it. The amount of, we know how much wash away we sell, so hey, we might be doing ourselves out of business here. Well, I hope not. Anyway,
it's possible.
No, you know what we're saying. Where you can save a cent or $1, that's fantastic. So that's a great use. What else can we do, Rachel?
So the next thing I did, and you are really familiar with Trapunto now that you've stepped into the quilting
You've
sort of
been
sewing
teaching me so much, yes.
So this is an embroidery block that's going in a quilt that's going to be is a Trapunto technique. So I just, on the regular sewing machine, stitched around the outside to baste the batting that I'm using for my Trapunto to the heart, and then cut it away. When this is in the quilt, it means that, and this block will be quilted completely.
Yep.
The stitching will come out and the heart will.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Now, I guess you stitched that. You said you stitched that on the machine, but if you've got an embroidery machine with auto basting,
yes,
you can use the water soluble thread on your embroidery machine.
Absolutely, you can. In fact, it's ideal for in the hoop projects for basting.
Yes.
A lot of basting for in the hoop. I would use that.
That makes great sense. Yeah. So I guess, and of course you can just wet this, I suppose, to get rid of it, rather than having to sort of throw it through a wash cycle. Yeah.
I have given you a little magic. I love this new pen. It's actually the water pen. If you do some stitching.
So we've got the water soluble thread on the machine, but we've got standard sewing thread in the bobbin, and we've done that.
I wound resent for you.
Yeah, we've got resent
in the bobbin.
So I'm just going to run a straight stitch down. Imagine I was sort of joining the seam here. We're on straight stitch, so let's just give that a run down there. Speed that up a wee bit. And we'll get to there, and we'll just pull that out, trim that thread. So under the camera, let's move this out the way. So there we go. We've got resent on the bottom and water-soluble thread. So what am I going to do with this?
So what I love about this pen is that it's a water-soluble dispenser, and you can see it's fine here at this tip. As you run it along the thread line here, it will just melt.
So we're just going to use this little water-soluble pen, or it's basically just a water applicator, isn't it?
Yes.
And so I'm just running that along there. That is disappearing already. Wow, look at that. So definitely don't want to make your swimmers out of that thread because...
Humid day.
You might want to do it for someone as a prank. I think that'd be a good fun YouTube video. Anyway, so that's gone. So now, can I just separate that?
Yeah.
So let's just take that away, and all that's left is the bobbin.
And saying that, Gary, for me personally, and the last thing I'm going to show you is the quilt, but I would not remove this with a pen if it's a project that's going to be washed.
Yeah.
I would
leave
wait.
it till the washing.
Leave it till the washing. But for some people who want to, if you're giving it. If it's something that's really noticeable, you can do this. This is an option.
Yeah, so if you've created something that's brand new and you don't want to wash it first, you want to give it to your friend or whoever it's going to as a gift, then being able to just simply apply a bit of water and remove it is fantastic. So that was super easy. There's the bobbin thread that I pulled out, but of course there is where I wet the, that's a little bit I didn't wet, but where I wet the thread, it's just gone completely. And wow, that's great. I love it.
Fantastic.
And so what have you done here? You've also got a
So
quilt.
the last thing I have made is, this is one of our newer products from Kimberbell. We're going to do some in the hoop quilting on this project, but I had basted it in the regular way, just with spray basting, but I needed to do the edges because it's going to be hooped in the embroidery machine. So I just needed to tack around the outside edge. You can see my driving's a bit wonky here, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it's going to disappear, isn't it?
That's right. So this is probably perfect. Water soluble thread is perfect for doing a lot of, this type of basting with projects because it washes out.
Well, I can see we're going to find lots of uses for water-soluble thread. But the best thing is, as we said, the value of this particular spool, given it's 900 metres in a great spool system like the Hemingworth spool system, is fantastic. So check out the product on our website. Check out the price that we have it at. It's going to surprise you at just how affordable it is. And of course, it's a high-quality product, so as you'd expect. And we have it in stock now, ready to go. So, and I think we'll probably, from time to time, use this in other projects that we do and put up online.
I really like it. I think it's a durable product, so I'll be using it a lot more with what
I reckon
for
it's
basting.
a must-have in everyone's sewing kit, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Rachel, thank you for that. And
You're welcome.
I hope that was a useful little segment we did for you folks out there. And if you have any questions about it, please contact us in all the normal ways. But otherwise, make sure you add one of these to your next order. And until next time, happy sewing.
See you next time.
Cheers.